right. Hey, welcome. Welcome, guys, to a rebuttal episode of the interviews that I usually do. Our guest today is Kung Fu Joe, is someone who has some
hmm
disagreements from the interview I did with
Well,
Fanatic and what he said about some things. Joe, go ahead and give yourself, an introduction.
hey, what's up, guys? My name is Kung Fu Joe. Kind of like an old school fixture in the FGC. I kind of got into it in the beginning with games like Marvel vs. Capcom 2, Street Fighter 3, Third Strike, and just kind of always had a love for these games and tried a few newer ones along the way. That's where I came to know Fnatic, the guy we're kind of talking about today. Um, I always thought he was kind of a controversial figure in the gaming world just due to the type of like controller he chose at the time. That's a whole another topic for another time, but that's how I know him. And then later on, after the George Floyd incident, the George Floyd death, um, I learned that he was also doing political streaming, and um, yeah, we had a few debates and we had some mostly disagreements, and I followed his content since then, and I also that's how I got to Jamali's interview with him, and that's what led us up to today. Oh, I can't hear your mic now. I don't know what.
Oh, sorry, I muted myself. Nice. Yeah,
Okay.
okay. That's a pretty brief or very good explanation of yourself and your relation to the person we are here to talk about today, at least in regards to things he may or may not have said in the political sphere, which is going to be awesome. Let me just go ahead and transition us over here, and I'm gonna stream the my replaying of it in Discord, so you can watch it.
Okay. Or at least if I could just hear it, that'd be enough.
Yeah,
But yeah, for whoever else.
just just I mean, I'm streaming it on the stream as well, but I just wanted to also make sure that you could hear it, so that you we
Mhm.
could just how do I say, coordinate the response and for
Responses.
yeah, exactly.
Gotcha.
All right, sorry, excuse the clunkiness here. I'm working with a new overlay. I'm still trying to figure out exactly how I'm gonna make it right. But it's just a small gap in between segments, but
Yeah. Worth the price of improvements, right?
yep, every
Yeah.
step of the way. Okay, here we go. All right,
Takes a lot of tinkering. Yeah.
exactly.
Mm.
I'm gonna start this one. You ready?
Sure.
All right, here we go. What place do you think religion has in like the homes of particularly Black Americans? As you know, it was a religion that was forced upon their ancestors, from our ancestors.
So here's the deal.
Uh huh.
I think it's so funny that you asked this question because I've, recently been getting into more solo
Are you hearing it on your
content,
end, or
and
let's see?
one of the
Hold on.
things that I want to really talk about is specifically religion's
Yes,
impact
yes, I am.
on the
Oh,
Black
okay.
community.
Are you hearing it on your end?
Yeah, the volume's a little low, but I can hear it.
Okay, there should be a volume slider on the stream in Discord. Is that turned up all the way? Or
Let no, it's just got a mute option. Um, and I saw, yeah, I slid it up to like the
okay, and it's still a
maximum
little
for
low.
the
Yeah,
one I did see.
that's
Okay.
weird. All right, so hold on, let me just restart that.
Okay.
So here's the deal.
Okay, I
Perfect.
could hear it loud enough.
All
Yeah.
right, yeah, I'll start it back right when he starts answering.
Mm-hmm.
So here's the deal.
Uh huh.
I think it's so funny that you asked this question because I've, recently been getting into more solo content, and one of the things that I want to really talk about is specifically religion's impact on the Black community, on ethnic Black people, freedmen, and so on and so forth in this country. because the Great Migration was largely made possible because of religion. The Civil Rights Movement was rooted in religion. Dr. Martin Luther King was a Reverend Dr. Martin Luther King. And a lot of the Civil Rights Movement had really religious organizations, things that we're particularly familiar with, like the song Amazing Grace. Those songs literally came from religious organizations, and it was really, I think, first like kind of brought to the light by Aretha Franklin, whose father was like probably one of the not probably was one of the most important people for the civil rights movement. And so you cannot divorce religion from the Black community and the progress that we've made. And I think, to be 100% real with you, I think our distancing ourselves from religion is why we're seeing some of the stagnation and some of the progress and things that we should have. I look at my family and I think, on paper, just given some of the circumstances and things that we've endured, we should be all in poverty and not living well. But my family is doing quite well, and the miracles that God did in mother's life, and my life, and just my family's life, that allowed us to get to the places that we are now, to like beat all of the statistics that like literally all of the things that said that we should be in poverty and for irrevocably. I think I can only attest that to God. I wish more people knew it, being honest.
Mm-hmm. Right. So is there anything there? I meant to say before. Oh.
Yeah, we know
Fanatiq. I meant to say before that you can tell me to stop and pause it at any time. Before I start.
Oh, sorry.
Yeah. Sorry. At any point in which you disagree where I start the clip, you can absolutely tell me you'd like to address something he says. But yeah, go ahead. I'm sorry to interrupt you.
No problem. Yeah. So I largely agree with this message here. I think you could have a separate argument about the validity of, religion and its usefulness or what positivity it contributes to the world. But I don't think we can deny that the power of organization and cohesiveness within the Black community that religion kind of brought, helped to maintain there. So he does have a point there. But the thing is, he also says that the loss of it contributes to a lot of the degeneracy and stagnation within the Black communities. So what my problem, like, I can see that making sense, and I kind of agree with that also. But my problem is, whenever I try to ask Fanatiq how much of these self-inflicted problems, like what percent is contributing to the stagnation versus racism or systemic racism, right? And I feel like that question is never adequately answered for me, because it's kind of like having your cake and eating it too for Fanatiq to have this position. And for people like me who just are kind of on the outside looking in, we're like, well, which is it? So that's my issue with this kind of stance here, is it's kind of contrarian to his overall views. Are you muted?
I am. Thank you.
Thank you.
Thank you for your answer. Was there anything else in particular that you found troubling in that, or should we move on to the next question?
No, I mean, I'm not maybe staunch, and I mean, I'm like somewhat religious, but I'm not as. I mean, we may have disagreements there, but I mean, it's not worth. That's not my issue with them. Like, I don't really care what someone believes personally, like religiously, and their religious, beliefs.
Okay, gotcha. That was just one of the things that I disagreed with
him. Right.
Hurt. All right, yeah. Let me get over the next video then, and and we'll start from there.
Okay.
And do you think would you prescribe your way of thinking to others? Gonna be sorry. Would you prescribe your way of thinking to others?
some aspects of it, but then other aspects, no. I think I have a tendency to kind of erase emotions out of situations, or apply logic to situations that really should be more emotion based, and I think that can lead to some problems. And so but I think logic is obviously incredibly good and an incredibly powerful tool when used appropriately. And so yeah, I wish more people were more logical. But then there's times where you really do need to consider the emotional impact of things, and I really struggle with that, or at least I had for a long time.
The next question is going to be, who is...
Okay. So he's saying that he uses logic, which is kind of like, I feel like he has this backwards, because every time I've interacted with him, and even just any random debate he's had with anybody, just pick one and watch one where he's having disagreements with people, and he's not really going off of logic. He's going off of like a lot of feeling, and because he starts to get very emotional, he starts to interrupt you and yell and talk over you. So I definitely don't think he's the most logical person. And then when he's talking about, would you you asked him, would you prescribe your way of thinking to others? And then he kind of says, what did he say? He kind of said no, not everything, but
He
then
said yes and no.
yes and no, right? Because he's saying like, oh, but then he goes ahead and says, I process most things logically. But so when I hear this, the one thing he said that makes me think that this is like terrible is his view on dating. Like he's basically saying like, I've used logic to come to this conclusion that I can only if I marry a black woman, like only if I conceive a child with a black woman, is that going to be a mother that is capable of raising a black child. Basically, his stance is that only two black parents can raise a black child correctly, and that when you bring in let's say like a white parent and a black parent, that child is going to grow up somewhat like confused about their identity, or they're going to be confused about what it is to be black. Like there's this he has this opinion openly, and he'll say that, no, I don't prescribe this view to everyone, but I reached this conclusion logically, which and I I if you follow the logic tree, there is no logic to it. This is purely a feeling. This is a prejudice, in my opinion, and an unfounded one.
Okay, yeah. Have you had any experience with people of mixed race? And
Of course, my wife is Mexican. I've dated, I don't know, probably like every shade but Asian, I guess. I mean, yeah, I'd say so. I
yeah,
live in Los
I'm sorry.
Angeles.
I should have been
That's
more
where I
specific.
grew up.
I meant like
What? Yeah.
mixed black and white, or black and,
Oh,
well,
sure.
probably black and white
Yeah.
would be the main one. Yeah, for the
Yeah,
sake
yeah,
of
yeah.
simplicity.
Yeah. Yeah. I've known a few mixed race people. Yeah.
And do you see that, or have you, if you've gotten to know them more in depth, if there's been anything from your anecdotal experience, of course, and not saying that this is the
Right.
case, but from your anecdotal experience, have you noticed that they have, growing up, had troubles with their identity?
Externally or internally?
Both.
Internally, no. Externally, maybe. Yeah. I could see them, how they would voice kind of sometimes not fitting in with one side or the other, but they got along, with me and kind of like the white kids didn't really make fun of them or anything, like, or him, but he said like hanging out with some of his black peers or whatever, that they would make fun of him for speaking differently. Like he spoke like full sentences of, like, he didn't really speak in ebonics or like his black peers did, and he kind of got picked on for that.
Mm-hmm.
And he was like a pretty good student, and I don't know. He felt that maybe he got some shade for that also from like his black peers.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
Uh,
like calling
and
him a square or saying he was like a Uncle Tom or not, an Oreo or whatever.
mm-hmm. Yeah, yeah, yeah. Discriminating against him essentially because of his mannerisms and stuff. Do you think that that may have
Yeah,
played some sort of internal issue within that person, or that they have expressed themselves? Because without you, obviously, like armchair, therapist-ing them, if that's a word, it's not, but I just made one.
well,
Um,
we do what friends do, right?
right.
Like people talk to each other.
Mm-hmm.
It's just he's a very smart person, so it doesn't really affect him. He's very mindful of he's kind of like got a natural stoicism to him. So
Mm-hmm.
things like that, he recognizes them and sees them because he takes in, his reality and responds to it, but
Yeah.
he doesn't let it bother him too much because he's doing pretty well in life right now. So
Of
I mean,
course.
it's hard to be
Yeah, yeah.
bothered. Yeah.
Would you say that, like, Fanatics thinking more of like from a younger perspective? Because obviously anyone can grow up and be okay, but I think here to Fanatic's point, he's talking more about your younger self image and how that contributes.
I just the
Mm-hmm.
I just don't take I just disagree with the general premise that basically I mean, I don't know. I feel like when you get married to somebody, it should be because you genuinely love them for who they are,
Mm-hmm.
and it's not because they checked the box in the race, the right race box,
Yeah.
first. I mean, there's a difference, and Fanatic tries to like lump this in, but then he tries to like sneak it in as a defense when it's not, because he gives one reason but then says another, which is that, oh, people will date exclusively black all the time. What are you talking about? And I'm like, yeah, but that's called a preference. There's a difference between a preference of what you're attracted to versus you're making this choice for ideological reasons only,
Mm-hmm. Right.
because Fanatic has admitted to dating outside of his race, plenty of times, according to him.
Yeah. Yeah. Well, I think he was
Yeah,
specifically. Once again, I'm not speaking for Fanatic, but I think he was talking about having a child with someone, dating someone, having a child with someone
I
aren't
understand. I
necessarily the
understand.
same thing. But I get where you're coming from. I understand what you're saying.
No, I understand what he's saying completely, which is that it is for him to have a child with somebody, he has a complete ideological reason for only choosing a black partner.
Mm-hmm.
It has nothing to do with genuine feelings of the person. It is
Yeah,
basically,
I
yeah.
agree with you that
I have a problem with that.
I
I just have
definitely.
a problem with that.
Oh, of course, I agree with you with that.
No.
That people should be, uh, choosing their partners based on the compatibility they have with them.
Love.
But
Yeah,
I just wanted to make sure that we're addressing what he said, and that we're kind of sticking
sure.
more to that particularly. Now, you brought up the example of the two black his ideology that two black parents can raise a child, um,
A
raise a
black
black
child.
child without their identity being in jeopardy. Um, is there any way? So you said no. You said actually there's
I'm
no
not sure
way.
what his reasons were, that they would just come out a better black person overall. I think I'm not sure what exactly
I mean,
he was saying
he's probably
contributes to,
saying
like,
it,
what good does it do exactly?
yeah. I think he's probably getting at the fact that they'll have a stronger self identity, um, because sometimes, at least within
Well,
their race, because
I
he's
get it, but why can't you have a strong self identity if you're mixed race?
uh,
Shouldn't, I mean, you're
well,
dealt the
because
hand you're given.
yeah, probably because of the instances that your friend had where he felt rejected from one side or the other. Now that probably happens if you can see that happening in your one anecdotal experience, then you can probably extrapolate that it happens across the country to a bunch of mixed children, which would have different effects on them because they're not all your friends. They're not all stoic, and everyone is
Uh-huh.
different. Now,
Okay.
would you see then how or why he might think that? Not saying I agree with it, but would you see then?
Sure. Well, now I think let's take all these reasons you just said and let's change black to white.
What do you mean?
Let's take it let's say
Like a
that,
mixed
well,
race,
let's make this
white
argument for
child?
the no, let's make his same argument but for white people, which is, well, if you're white, you should only raise a child with another white person, because if you get with a black person, that black person is not going to be able to communicate their white, like what it is to be white to them. You know, like what I mean? Like, and like, let's say if we flip that argument to white people all of a sudden, and all of a sudden you have like a Nick Fuentes tier, like segregationist argument.
Mm.
Yeah,
I mean,
it
I don't
seems
know.
very problematic.
I don't know if he's ever. I don't know if Fanatic is a segregationist. I don't know if that was necessarily.
No, I'm
the
not
point.
saying he is. I'm saying that if you follow the logic of his arguments, that's where we get to. He just doesn't see that.
Okay. So you're saying
Yeah.
that the logical end to wanting to have a child raised with two parents of the
With
same race or ethnicity or whatever, is that it eventually leads to segregation? Or
is that okay? For all the same reasons we don't like white supremacists and their arguments for segregation, I think that we should not like any argument for romantic segregation, like, you know, you can only date within your race. I mean, or you can only, you know what I mean? Like, I
like you
think
can only
that
have
kind of,
children with you should only
yeah,
have
only
children
you,
within your race.
yes, you should only have children within your race. I believe that is a type of segregation. It for the lack of a better term.
Yeah, I don't know if that would be segregation. So
Yeah, I
yeah,
think
I
there's
think there's
another
another
word there,
term you're
but
looking for. Yeah, I think there's another word you're looking for.
yeah,
I don't know if it's segregation.
it's definitely a type of, like, it's a racist type of gatekeeping of a kind that makes my hair stand up on end and feel like this tingling, like this is wrong, like this is a fucked up worldview.
I see. Okay.
Yeah.
All right. Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
All right. Thank you for explaining further your logic and reasoning there.
Yeah, I just feel like if it's fucked up for the white supremacists to say it, it should be fucked up for any other race to say something similar.
Gotcha.
Yeah.
All right. So we're gonna go on to the next question. Who's your favorite political streamer? That wasn't it. I don't think that was it.
I don't think so. 1739. I think that's, you're asking him what he would do.
This is the same clip. I'm sorry, I didn't go to the next clip.
Oh, okay.
This is the clip. Do you have a way at which you would, dish out? Sorry, I keep forgetting to turn that back to normal speed.
That's just a few seconds, I think.
Yeah. Do you have a way at which you would, dish out those reparations, like a more set?
Oh, so you ask him if what he'd do if he was going to be president, and he said reparations. And now he's explaining, right, whatever, how would he do that?
Did you
play it a little further?
Did you want me to pause it?
Yeah,
okay,
just
okay.
My bad. Yeah. Play it a little further. Let me hear what he says here.
In all of the ways, especially, and for sure. So I would say that reparations should come in all of the ways, especially since the reparations would be primarily for economic benefit. We live in a system called capitalism, the best system in the world, in my opinion, but we've obviously been left out of a large part of that system. And so I think the smartest thing would be to do get student loan forgiveness, free education, mortgage forgiveness, interest-free loans for mortgage, direct payments, and investment capital into specifically Black businesses. And I think, all
right, I notice he's not answering your question.
Literally all the tools necessary to succeed, like, for all Black Americans. I think that would be huge.
So I just
What would
caught that right there. Pause it. So you noticed the question you asked him, and the answer you gave him was like, I don't even know what he's responding to. You asked him, how would you dish? Oh, no, wait, that is the answer you asked for, right? How would you
Yeah.
dish that out?
Mhm.
Oh, I thought you were asking him, like, how would you pay for it?
No. Like I
Yeah.
wanted to know his plan for like how that would be rolled out. There's certain talks about
Oh, man,
eligibility,
that's
who's
the
eligible
easy
for what, who's
question.
eligible for who, you know.
Right. Right. No, that's the way easier question. I think the harder question is how would you pay for it? Yeah, but there's all kinds of I mean, this is basically the reparations argument, which is I think Fanatic is the most uncharitable on subjects like this, and well, there's others, but this is one of them. Like, for you to have any kind of questions, concerns, or rejections about a reparations program, he does. I just disapprove of this gatekeeping, this kind of racial gatekeeping of like, well, if you're not an ally, then you're against us. Mind your own business, you know. So it's like, just because I have a contrary opinion, we cannot discuss the validity of a reparations program, you know. So that's kind of like my main issue with Fanatic here, is that he won't even entertain a debate about it. It's just like, I'm right, you're wrong. If you don't like this, you're either a dumbass or a racist. End of story.
Mm-hmm. Okay, so what did you disagree with what he said?
Oh, I disagree with things he said, but the first thing I disagree with is he won't even have this debate with anyone. It's kind of like not up for debate in his opinion. That's what I disagree with firstly, and then after secondly, just the I mean, there are so many things. There are so many reasons why reparations are unpopular. I mean, um, it sounds like it would be impossible. Like, first, we need to know what we're talking about, right? Like, reparations for what exactly? Because nobody can seem to agree what anyone's getting reparations for and who's getting them. So I think Fanatic's not being very clear there, right? He didn't say what their reparations for what when you asked him, right?
He said, no, he didn't give what the reparations were for in the second part of the. I don't know if this was I believe this is the second
Yeah,
part of a question of an
he
original
just
question.
said what he would be dishing out,
That
and
because that
all
was the
of this
question I asked him
sounds
there, but
right. I
beforehand,
mean,
he might
yeah,
give
all
it.
of this sounds massively expensive, and this is just for to be honest, in my view, reparations is just a political carrot that the Democrats use to dangle in front of the black voter base to get them to vote for them over and over again, and then not change anything. And then once a reparations bill goes up, they're the first ones to shoot it down. So it's like this incredible game they play. Um, uh, because it's not real. It's like it's a phantom, right? Like, for me, reparations is a fake thing. It's about as real as Bigfoot, you know, because um, at least the Republicans are being honest and saying, look, we can't do this. This is like unaffordable. We wouldn't know how to implement it. We wouldn't, and there's also this question of fairness, right? So let's say let's say all of history played out exactly the way it did, but every Black American today was rich. Would we still would we still be doing the country a favor by giving them money when we have so many poor and homeless people, like, you know, living on the streets today? Because we have a growing homeless crisis right now, and I think that addressing the people who are falling out on the bottom um, in a society supersedes this kind of movement that gets, shot down politically over and over again. And I think it's problematic when people like Fanatic say that, look, we should want this, we should get angry about it when we don't get it, and we should just keep on chasing it. And for any reason that we're stagnant, this is the reason why. And I just feel like that is, why should I get on board with that argument rather than the conservative Black argument, which is that this is the best country in the world for Black people, and you can make it if you try. That is the primary question that Fanatic has never answered for me.
Okay. Couple things. Let me see. Okay, so I think I believe you said that the Democrats use reparations as a carrot to dangle.
A political carrot.
A political carrot to dangle over Black voters. Do you have any instances of any Democrats with a reparations plan?
With a reparations plan?
That they put in their policies or in their promises or anything like that?
No, that's the thing. They never have a plan. They just say it's time to give reparations, and they make it sound great.
My question to you is, do you have any evidence of that? Like of a Democrat saying that, campaign trails, anything like that? Like, do you have anything to prove that point?
I would bet money I could find it very fast.
Do you want to do it now?
I could.
Yeah, do it now.
Okay, what are we betting?
You don't have to bet money. I just want to.
I'm saying we know that the Democrats are the only ones who will ever talk about reparations, right? We know it's not the Republicans. Who talks about reparations? It's the left.
Is it Democrats or leftists online? Are you drawing a distinction there? I'm not sure. I'm just trying to make sure I'm
okay.
Sure
I'll just say the left to be more broad, because what happens is I'll say the left to be more accurate, because what happens is that all power gets filtered down to the Democrats in the end from the left. So and we see this with Bernie Sanders, and figures like all left-leaning figures come election year are going to tell you to vote for the Democrat. If they're either going to tell you to vote for nobody, which is rare because they hate the Republican candidate so much, they're going to tell you to vote for the Democrat. But these, social figures and lower level politicians will talk about reparations and say it's time for, and make it sound really good and say that, and make it sound like they're really on your side, when it comes to that. But in the end, they never deliver on it. And it's been that way for like 60 years. And how we're still talking about reparations today is amazing to me, that, nobody's figured out. Well, actually, my Black friends are pretty smart. They figured it out that it's never going to happen. And they're smart enough to, take accountability into their own hands and not wait for, not be waiting for that to happen. And that is kind of a point I heard argued to Fanatic during that Annalisa argument. I was kind of reviewing that today, and she said to him, because he brought up the reparations thing. He's like, well, the reason why Black men aren't on par with Black women today is because all the injustices that happened to us, and we obviously, that's why I argue for reparations. And then she's like, you know what? If we're living in a system created by white men and they are self-interested, why the hell are you waiting there for a handout from them? And I'm like, okay, that's a good point, because Fanatic believes that, right? Fanatic believes that this country is racist. Fanatic believes that, white politicians and especially Republicans are racist. So if he holds that to be true, how could he believe that help will ever come in the form of reparations when half of the country is conservative?
Mm-hmm. Okay, yeah. Do you think that there is nothing in the recent 100 years, 50 years that uh, black people could probably, or at least groups of black people, could be given a sort of reparations for?
I mean, like specific smaller cases, like not were not related to slavery and stuff like that. I mean, I'm sure I've heard of cases within the GI Bill that there's good arguments for, because it's a lot more recent. The victims, a lot of them are, I think, or yeah, I think a lot of them are still alive today because a lot of these injustices are recent. So we can give reparations to the ones who have been harmed, and that is something that's not very controversial.
Hmm. What about the
Yeah.
people who survived the Tulsa race massacre?
Um, who was okay? Who
Do
what
you Are
who
you aware of?
committed?
Okay, so
Yeah,
I'll give
yeah,
you.
but was it just racist white people, or was
It
it
was government,
like who
the
who
local
did
government officials there as well. They the police firebombed and helped firebomb the neighborhoods of black people.
what year? What year was this?
1919, I believe.
Yeah, no, I don't think. I mean, that sounds like a uphill battle to me.
That's okay. Um,
Yeah.
what about the injustices of not
I'm not
being?
saying it's not wrong. I'm saying that you're okay.
Well,
I'll
I'm
give you
asking if
this
they would deserve reparations, not if it's right or wrong.
right. Well, I'll give you kind of an analogy to explain how I see some of these things that you might go through, and it might answer all the other future things you're going to ask me. Um, this is it's a thought experiment I thought of called the racist casino. So there's this racist casino, and they only let whatever the white players uh, play poker there or whatever, and it's a very good, like, juicy poker game. If any skilled player gets in there, they're going to make a lot of money, right? But they don't let any of the black players play, so they're missing out. Even though they're incredibly skilled, they can't participate in this game and profit from it, right? So then one day, the casino, the racist owners of the casino get ousted. They get, kicked out, bought out, whatever. The new owners come in. They they flip the place upside down. They say, "Hey, everyone's welcomed here. Whatever. Everyone's, we're righting the wrongs. We're not the racist casino anymore." And the black players come along, and some of them say, "Hey, like, they didn't let us play for the longest. Can you, you know, buy us in for whatever, as long as we're alive?" And they're like, "Well, I get that it's unfair what the racist casino, what the owners did to you guys by not letting you play. And I get that you've lost value by not participating, in this game, because obviously there's a lot of you that are very skilled here. Um, but the thing is, we're not the racist casino. Like, we came in here to make it right. And although we would like to make it right for you, it's just not financially viable for us to do that." And we don't feel morally obligated, because we feel like we did the right thing by kicking the racists out and making this a non-racist casino. So I feel like we already did enough good here. That's kind of like my analogy for how we've progressed in the country, how we've gotten past, how we socially, the country progressed to where we don't have that type of racist violence, and the the unfortunate truth is that in the past we just had that. We had, racist people living in this country that we fought a war over, brother killing brother, um to free slaves from slavery. it was a very contentious and, you know, bloody war, like for progress in the right direction, you know, for this country. But we have to acknowledge that these terrible people existed and that we've beaten them out of power. So that is the good that we've done. But with all that's going on now, financially, we know it's impossible, right? I mean, especially when we're doing unjust things like giving money to Ukraine, we give too much money to Israel. We kind of we run this kind of outdated imperialistic style of keeping a military base like in every piece of land around the world or something, and that's draining our pockets too. So, I mean, we know in our hearts that it's financially unviable, but people like Fanatic will keep on saying that, yeah, guys, like it's a reality if we just keep fighting for it. And I feel like he's leading people on a ghost chase, like a ghost hunt. And it's unfortunate and sad.
Okay, well, thank you for filling out your answers there.
That was a bit long-winded, but sorry.
It's perfectly okay. Thank you for your answer. All right, so we're gonna get to the next question. It's gonna be, what do you view as relevant in a discussion about the racial disparities Black people face in America?
What's relevant in discussing that? I would say, historical accuracy, the systemic oppression that led to it, some of the ongoing systemic oppression that's happening and being experienced that's contributing to it. And then I would say some of the attempts to or claimed attempts to rectify that do things that are obviously going to widen it, like Biden's recent student loan forgiveness plan, right? Where it's like, there's literally no way you think that this is actually like going to fix anything. In fact, it's going to make it so much worse. But he just does it, and I don't know how I don't know how that's even a thing. But
for those who aren't economists, how does it make it worse? I don't know how it makes it worse.
I can break it down in like really quickly for you. So there's four statements that need to be understood, and these things are all true. One, the majority of white borrowers are less than $25,000 in student loan debt. Two, Black borrowers on average have $52,000 in student loan debt. Three, the student loan forgiveness forgives about $20,000 for Pell Grant recipients. Four, there are more Pell Grant recipient who are white than any other demographic. So the majority of Pell Grant recipients are white, which means
that makes no sense.
Taking all of those things, and you can come to the conclusion that the student loan forgiveness will leave many white borrowers with $5,000, or some of them having their debt wiped out entirely, whereas Black borrowers will then be left with $32,000 in student loan debt still.
I mean, there's more white people in the country. Of course, there's more white people going to college. I mean, I don't. But okay, so there was a lot there. First he started off with systemic oppression or systemic racism or whatever. I know he believes in this. I personally don't believe in systemic racism because, well, not today and not in 2023. Like, I can give you, like, I believe actually no, there might still be, there is one system of systemic racism still alive today that I believe in, but it's not the one Fanatic thinks. It's basically, systemic racism at first didn't make any sense to me when he's talking about things like criminal justice or whatever, because racism is a belief and a belief system, right? And that's what he has said before. And so if it's a belief system, and he says systemic racism means that you're participating in a system that is giving racist outcomes, even if everyone within that system isn't racist. So if nobody's being intentionally racist, how can it be racism, right? Because if racism is a belief structure, but nobody within the system, the racist system, is racist, then how can it be racist?
Mm-hmm.
So that's one question that is always not very satisfiably like answered to me. And I think Destiny like has the same, no, wait, not Destiny. I think, or Actual Justice Warrior, one of those guys had the same opinion on that, which is it doesn't make sense to call it that. It's just a disparate outcome. Disparate outcomes don't necessarily mean that there's racism. It just means that there's a disparate outcome. So my problem with Fanatic is when he talks about systemic racism, he just basically says any disparate outcome is systemic racism.
Okay. Yeah. Was there more to this question that he had said, do you think, or?
Well, I just didn't see the problem with his student loan argument there. Like it just made sense that if you have a country that's majority white, then of course there's going to be more white borrowers. I mean, I just don't see. I just don't see the problem there.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, I don't see what point he was getting at.
Yeah, let's see if there's any more to the question that you disagree with, or to his answer that you disagree with.
Loan debt is such a problem that we need to do something to fix it, and we're going to do something that's going to cause white borrowers to have their student loan debt almost completely eradicated, but will leave black borrowers with more student loan debt than the white borrowers had before we even started this rectification program. That means that we're about to do some serious harm, and the wealth gap is going to even widen. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
If we're talking.
So okay, hold on. Here's like a basic like math problem that I don't get what the problem is here either. So he's saying that if black borrowers, like let's say, okay, white borrowers have $20,000 in debt. Okay, the government's paying off 20,000. Most white borrowers have 20,000 in debt. Most black borrowers have 50 or something like that. So the problem is that the student loan forgiveness isn't paying off all of the majority of black borrowers' debt. That's his problem he has there. But
I'm sorry. I thought you were asking me. Go ahead.
Yeah, I'm assuming that's the problem he has there, but I just don't see how that's unfair.
Isn't that what he said? Right? He said that blacks have on average, have a higher
debt, higher student
loan debt particularly than white students. Yes, and then he's saying that the student loan forgiveness
would basically forgive
erase white people's, or the white borrowers, the average white borrower's debt, and it would still leave the average black borrowers with more
in debt
than the white borrowers had to begin with. Correct. That is what he said.
But it's still paying off debt regardless. I mean, I don't see how it's unfair that just because the black borrowers had more debt that it's what is he getting at it? What's his point here exactly? I'm not sure. He doesn't exactly say.
I think he's saying that the wealth gap is going to increase because the average white student's debts are erased, whereas the average black student's debts are not erased. They're still there. So there's still debt for them, meaning their general income is always going to be lower than the average white person, et cetera, et cetera. I think that's his reasoning for that.
Right, but he just says right there that the average white person incurred less debt. Is that an advantage for them to incur less debt? I mean,
I'm not sure why they have less debt. I don't know if he mentions why. I don't know why they would have less debt on average.
Yeah, because if the black borrowers are getting into more debt, then I don't get it. It sounds like that's
debt. I'm not sure how different races of people would have different on average levels of debt if they're going to the same schools?
Well, that's what he's claiming. That's his argument, right? Yeah, I'm speaking to his argument, which is that he's basically saying it's, what is it? It's unfair or unjust or not good enough or something because
I think he's saying that it's going to create a problem. It does the opposite of helping lessen the wealth gap between white and black people.
So lessening your debt from 50,000 to 30,000 isn't helping you?
I think he's saying that in comparison to having no debt versus having debt, then no, I think is
well, sure, but if you took it upon yourself to only incur $20,000 of debt instead of 50, you would have had your debt paid off.
I mean, like we said, we don't know why white borrowers in his situation have less debt, or if
exactly.
That is true,
so I don't know
why.
Yeah,
so
you're right.
We don't know. There could be reasons
right.
outside of what we're thinking that could be the reason.
Right, which is that makes it even more silly for him to bring this up as an argument because he doesn't know the details of why.
I didn't ask him for any proof of this.
Right.
And
I'm just telling you my gripe with it.
Yeah. Right. If it is true, if we're taking what he's saying at face value and he has evidence for this, there's an actual, like, we're not assuming, I'm not assuming he's being disingenuous, right? I'm taking the numbers that he's giving me as an interview. I'm just taking what he's saying and I'm like, okay, got you. This is what you're presenting. If this is what he's presenting, then this is what we're going off of. So there are a lot of vaguenesses to it that we cannot answer. We can only speculate. And I'm assuming that your speculation is that there is a reason for these things, why white students might have a lower debt than black students. For student loan.
I'm not saying I know the reason. I'm saying that the reason
we're speculating. We don't know the reason, but we're speculating what that reason might be at this point.
Well, I'm not even speculating that. I'm just saying that I'm not even saying that. I'm just saying that, well, obviously the problem is them incurring more debt, not the government not only paying off 20,000 or whatever. I mean, I think that is helping. I think paying off $20,000 in debt is a pretty big help. Yeah, I just don't see what the issue is because I don't.
Okay, yeah, let's just I'm going to play this back one more time.
$5,000
okay.
Or some of them taking all.
And do you mind if I speed it up a little bit since we've already watched over it? Are you?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay.
Pell Grant recipient.
Right, because he gets 4 points. What are his 4 points?
These things are all true. 1, the majority of white borrowers are less than $25,000 in student loan debt.
Majority of white borrowers are less than 25,000.
Black borrowers on average have $52,000.
Black borrowers on student loan average have 52,000 in student loan debt.
The student loan forgiveness forgives about $20,000.
Student loan forgiveness forgives
4.
25,000.
White borrowers there are more
major recipients of
who are
that
white
grant
than any other demographic.
Now,
right.
So he goes on to say,
which means taking all of those things, and you can come to the conclusion that the student loan forgiveness will leave many white borrowers with $5,000, or some of them having their debt wiped out entirely, whereas black borrowers will then be left with $32,000 in student loan debt still. And if we recognize that student loan debt is such a problem that we need to do something to fix it, and we're going to do something that's going to cause white borrowers to have their student loan debt almost completely eradicated, but will leave black borrowers with more student loan debt than the white borrowers had before we even started this rectification program, that means that we're about to do some serious harm, and the wealth gap is going to even widen. Does that make sense?
So, yeah, I think he's saying that if you are erasing or essentially erasing the debt for one group of people and still leaving another group of people with that debt, still a significantly high number of that debt that it is going to.
Yeah, but it doesn't make any sense because it's like it's one group spent less, right? They were more responsible with how much they spent to go to college.
You're assuming once again how or why they have less debt. You don't know why they have less debt. We don't know.
We don't. I mean, we could get into it,
right?
But
That's what I was saying. If you have any inclination as to why or what he's saying, if it's true, then I would hope. That's why I kind of wanted you to post these clips.
What is he? Wait, well, because he doesn't even go into it. He doesn't even say what is the reason they have more debt. He just glosses over it like they just have more debt. Mm-hmm. They should get it paid off.
Yeah, I was kind of hoping
we haven't even had that conversation.
I was kind of hoping that you when I asked you for the timestamps that you would like have actual
No.
rebuttals.
No.
With like
This
some
is a
sort of, like,
rebuttal. I'm saying, how is it unfair? It seems perfectly fair that, okay, we have a set amount of money to spend. We're going to give this student forgiveness program, which I was against from the beginning, like broad based, right? But if they're going to give it, they gave it in the fairest way possible, I guess, which is we're going to give a set amount to everybody across the board. Doesn't matter how much you have in debt or not. And okay, what, like, we don't know that there's anything nefarious or anything wrong going on with one group owing less debt than another. We don't know that anything wrong happened there. It could make perfect sense, right? That it just ended up that way without any racism or systemic, racism or any of that.
Is that your supposition?
I'm saying that it is possible that it could just be like complete it could be not racism at all.
Okay.
I'm saying that is probably like 80% true.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I mean, I'd be interested in seeing any evidence to the contrary.
Yeah.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
That's the most relevant.
All right, cool. And then that was that one, and then we got the last one here. What is the most frustrating part?
Could I
political discourse? Yeah.
I'm sorry, to make one last point about that, is that I mean, one is just more believable than the other, and that's why I assumed, because when I said, well, one group was seemed to just spent less money, right? Like, that is the truth of what happened there. One group spent less money.
What do you mean by spent less money? Because I mean, they're borrowing to go to
school. They incurred less debt. They incurred less debt. Right. That's just the objective reality of what happened.
Why do you think that is?
They just did.
That's that's begging the question there. So I'm asking you to give me, like, what? Maybe they went to cheaper schools. Maybe they had like, what do you think are reasons why that might be the case?
They could have picked cheaper degrees, like they went to cheaper schools, like, rather than big universities. Maybe they lived cheap. They found ways to live cheaper. Maybe they.
What does that have to do with their debt?
What's that?
What does living cheaper have to do with their student debt? Like, they did in dorm.
Well, I mean, I know there's some grants that give you like cost of living, that could be a huge factor. There's some kids get grants or they get loans and they get a job on the side where they try to skimp by as much as they can, like we live off ramen and tuna and stuff like that. Yeah. Like,
you're saying the average white student does that more than the average black student.
No, I'm saying that it could be a reason. I'm saying that could be one of the reasons. We don't know.
Right.
We could say that,
like, a factual. I'm just asking because we've established that neither of us, none of us, no one, me, you, Fanatiq, has given any evidence or proof based on this, based on the numbers that Fanatiq has said. So now I'm asking you, what do you think would be?
What I'm saying is, I would just be willing to bet that there are more answers to why that is, that make perfect sense, that don't include any racism.
Okay.
Yeah.
But
I'd be willing to look into that. But I mean, to assume that it has anything racist, any racist intent or nefarious like cause behind it automatically is irresponsible, in my opinion.
Yeah. But I'm not. My question to you is not to ask you what it is. I'm asking, my answer is let's find what it isn't. I'm not asking you what it isn't. I'm asking you what you think it is. Not even that it has to be right or wrong.
Well, I don't want to give a misinformed opinion. I would be interested in looking into why that is, if there's been any studies on it at all.
Yeah. Okay.
Yeah.
Let's get into the last question.
the healing. Counterparts. So I think when we get economic justice, we'll see the healing actually.
Yeah, let's go on to the next question right there. What is the most frustrating part about online political discourse, particularly on Twitch?
It feels like the vast majority of people in this space, in Twitch, aren't interested in actually discussing the issues. They're not truly invested at all in actually what's going on. A lot of them, it feels like, are just grifting and saying what is popular. Because when I've discovered, or like whenever I've made attempts to actually help them educate themselves in some of the ways, like that they're kind of maybe misconstruing or misunderstanding the things that they're talking about, I've noticed there's like an incredible pushback. And so then it's like, wait a minute, if you're truly interested and invested in like justice and all of these things, but then here you have an opportunity to learn the truth about what exactly is happening, and you're kind of dismissing that opportunity. To me,
this is incredible
like
cope.
you're not particularly, you don't really care. So I would
Yeah,
say,
this is projecting at the highest level right here. That all of this is, I mean, wow, this gets us to so many different conversations where it's just the opposite of what he's saying. Like conversations with me, like him talking to people like Irrelevant or Rob Noir, or just like Destiny several times, even like that Annalisa chick. Like he's he's the one that's not listening. You know, like everyone has a rebuttal or something to say back to his to his argument. And I feel like whenever I listen to a debate with him, or if I have a debate with him, I feel like he's not listening. I genuinely feel like he's not hearing me, and he's not responding to the things that we're saying. And this is a common problem. Like most people, it's kind of a meme at this point, where most people who debate with Fanatiq are like, are we all misunderstanding you? Because we'll hear what you're saying, repeat it back to you, and then you get mad when you hear what you say repeated back to you because it sounds silly once it goes into your ears, you know, from someone else's mouth. So this is something that always happens with him. It's like he'll take issue with his own argument just because you've repeated it back to him in a disingenuous way. And he's just not listening. Like anytime anyone brings any data, because, you know, he's a big data guy, right? He's like, bring me some data on this, bring me some data on that. He'll move the goalpost, or he won't even acknowledge the data, you know? So like, there was a debate we had where we were talking about crime rates and things like that. And I was saying how the higher police presence in some Black communities is a natural response to the higher crime rate in those communities. And they don't use racism to place the police there. They use systems like Comstat that aggregate map-based reporting. So basically, like when a phone call or a report comes in from a certain area, they GPS map it within that area, and then they delegate their officers to that area because they only have so many dollars to spend on policing. So they need to police as effectively as they can and send police officers to where the crime is. But when he asked for data to see this, and I would show him data, like, look, let's say we took like different cities. Like I gave him, like, in New York, it gave like shooting victims and suspects, and it gave data by race. And then what did he move the goalpost on? Oh, he said that something about this is arrests versus convictions or something like that. And I'm like, dude, it doesn't matter. It's crime data. What I'm making the argument to you that there is crime in this area, and thus this is what the heightened police presence. To tell me that, oh, well, some of these people were, are convicted versus reported or whatever, like, it doesn't matter. Well, that's not what we're talking about right now. And he always does things like this, like he's just a very disingenuous, like very bad faith debater. He is a grifter in my opinion, because the first debate we had was about the Kyle Rittenhouse case. And I mean, he had nothing. He had nothing at the end of the day. Like, he had no argument against those shootings and Kyle being there, and he had nothing to back up his claims of it being racist. Like, oh, we just live in a racist country, and that's why that's why they said he was not guilty for those shootings. And he said supposedly that, well, if it was a black man in the same situation, that it would have been da da da. And like, I just thought that was a very damaging message as well. Like, I mean, he's just not hearing the arguments. I feel like he only hears his own head, and everything just makes sense in his own head. And he's never actually changed his mind on anything, because he's never really critically thought about anything. So, that's one of my key disagreements with Fanatic on this position, and as a debater in general on these on these topics.
All right. And then was that the end of the question? No.
Interested in drama than they are about educating. That a lot of people are more interested in drama than they are about educating themselves and actually being correct.
Oh yeah, I mean, so that's not true either, because Destiny absolutely is pro-black in my opinion. I think absolutely, he's further left than me. He goes to bat against like racists that say all kinds of, and anti-Semites and, all kinds of like bigoted, hateful people, right? Like, this is one of his most like ridiculous hills he's died on recently by, saying that Destiny is anti-black or does, anti-black sentiment, or that he's damaging to the black community, or that he did that whole Annalisa stream was just blaxploitation. Like, these are all really cheap shots coming from somebody, going at someone who really went out of his way to try to help Fanatic grow. And then he turns around and basically backstabs Destiny and calls him a racist and says like, oh, he's not worth my time, blah, blah, blah. And it was funny because today in one of, the Fanatics videos, I saw a post from a guy who's like, oh, hey man, I like your stuff. I found you through Destiny's channel. And I'm like, well, you won't be finding him through Destiny's channel anymore, because he's decided that Destiny is, being a bad faith actor when he argues with Fanatic, and that he's no longer worth his time. But Destiny is not being a bad faith actor. If you watch any of the Destiny versus Fanatic debates, Destiny is being very patient and very fair with Fanatic. And Fanatic is just being very ridiculous and very like getting really like indignant towards Destiny every time Destiny makes a good point or something. They were arguing about the view I was talking about earlier, where, Fanatic believes that you should only have children with other black people or whatever. He was having this disagreement with Destiny. And to make his point, Fanatic said, well, it would be like a parent who knows how to raise like an autistic child, right? Like, you wouldn't give it to you wouldn't have a person who has no experience with autism to raise that autistic child. And Destiny starts laughing and he's like, are you comparing the difference in raising a black child to raising an autistic child? And Fanatic just went off, and he went crazy and started yelling at Destiny and saying that he was being bad faith and stuff like that. But it's like, but Fanatic, you're the one who said it. You made that example right now. Why are you getting upset and calling Destiny bad faith for repeating back to you what you just said? So I don't know. I think that's it. All he's saying here is not true. He's the one who's being very dishonest and very bad faith in these conversations. And he's gaslighting here big time.
Okay. What advice do you have for people? Yeah, I think that is it. Those were all the time
Probably it.
sent to me.
Yeah,
the last
yeah.
one.
Got a lot out of those.
Yeah. No, that's a long video. I think.
Yeah, sorry about that.
No, you're good.
You could cut out some if you want.
No. Actually, I was. I mean, I did. I hoped it would be shorter, but I knew it would not be. So that's okay.
Sorry about that.
Yeah. No, you're totally good. I'll probably just upload this as a whole. But what I want to do first, obviously, is. Sorry, give me 1 second. I want to. Get the debate, the reparations debate that I have scheduled, or that I don't have scheduled yet, done and uploaded. Since you do talk about that a little bit, so I want to get that done and uploaded, so that there's not like a jump ahead of where your views and positions are on that. Because I think you gave a little bit on it, and not to say that it would.
I did, yeah.
It wouldn't be. It's fine that you.
Well, there's a lot more. There's a lot more
for the sake of fairness. In the debate, you guys will be added to a group chat together, so don't worry about it. But, Mr. Kung Fu Joe, that is all
Mr. Jamali
we have for today. Are there any closing remarks you want to say? Is there anything else you want to mention? You want to shout yourself out? This would be time to do it, sir.
Yeah, I mean, I stream sometimes on my channel at just some old school fighting games, mostly like Marvel vs. Capcom 2 at Kung Fu Joe with a 0 and a 3. And just want to thank you, Jamali, for having me on. I know we kind of like had to reschedule this a couple times.
A million times. I apologize.
Yeah,
I was mostly.
But that's okay. I mean, hey, we're here, so it's cool. It was cool to talk with you and do this finally, and hopefully we can have future conversations down the road.
Yeah. I think I like this format a lot better.
Nice.
Anyway, so that works. Well, thank you.
All right.
For showing up. Thank you for coming. Thank you for your patience.
Thank you.
Have a wonderful rest of your night, sir. Enjoy your weekend.
Have a good weekend.
You too, buddy. Bye.
All right. Bye.